Dude, so I beat Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, for PS2. In the far-off year of 2002 in October, Stormfront Studios, the developer, and EA Games, who published it, brought this game to life, and it's one of the few licensed games that was actually pretty good. It's often cited as a game that people want to have remastered. If any game should be, this one should be. I mean, there are a few others, such as the game that came after it, Return of the King. I see that this game is sometimes described as an action RPG or role-playing of some sort, and it does feel like an action RPG a little bit, but to be honest, to me, it feels more like an updated brawler, like where brawlers ended up getting to on some platforms. So brawlers are like Streets of Rage and Double Dragon and River City Ransom. I think this is just like a nice updated version. They've got 3D environments, you've got objectives, you've got a lot of guys to fight, and you do have a lot more abilities. Generally in those older games that are the brawler category, they have, just a few moves, and they did get updated as they went along, but this is definitely a cool little branch that branched off from it. Something you might notice is that this video is much shorter than my last video. If you've watched those, they're much longer, especially even the first video. But Grand Theft Auto, that was like almost an hour long. This one's gonna be much shorter because this game is just shorter. To be honest with you, it took me 3 hours and 40 minutes to see credits, or at least my version of credits. I know it's gonna be kind of tough to figure out what games end where sometimes, but in this game, you play through 12 total missions with an also total of 4 special missions. To complete these missions, you have 3 characters that are from the movie and the books. You have Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, and you also have a special character you can only play on 2 different missions, a special mission and the very first mission. The missions follow the movie and the books pretty much exactly. I mean, they did take some liberties with some things because fights aren't really that long in the movie. I mean, comparatively to a video game where you're interacting with. So obviously they have to elongate some events so that you have things to do. You have a few objectives here and there in each of the missions, but I think the biggest thing you have to do is just kill dudes. Now, there are 12 story missions and there are 4 special missions. The 4 special missions are 1 for each of the 3 characters and then a special one for that other character. It's the only time you get to play him other than the prologue opening. And it's pretty much just him in this tower that has 20 waves, and the other characters also do the same thing. Same location, same objective. You have to kill enemies in these 20 waves and then eventually get to the last one where you just end. As you play the missions, you can level up each of the individual characters. They all have their own upgrades and they can get up to level 10. So that's why it's probably called an action RPG. It just doesn't, it doesn't like feel exactly like an RPG. Yeah, there's some skills to get, but pretty much going from mission 1 to the last mission with the same character gets you all of the skill upgrades. I think I had every single one of them, maybe 1, but it wasn't that important to me. But there's not that many upgrades, so you'll eventually get all of them. Okay, I think that's enough for the intro. Let's go to the gameplay. Okay, like I said before, this game follows the movies exactly, starting with the opening to the first movie, The Fellowship. You do a couple fights from The Fellowship so that you get an understanding of the story. And the very first thing that happens is you watch the opening, and then it transitions into gameplay, and the transition is pretty nice. And it happens all over the place. You get these really nice movie-to-game transitions. They did a really good job on it. However, the only time you really have a good sense of what they're talking about is at the very beginning. The very first mission, that story scene, all that stuff, that makes sense. But it's broken up pretty heavily because otherwise it would just be the entire movie. It's broken up so heavily though that it really doesn't make sense. So if you are coming here knowing very little about Lord of the Rings, don't expect to understand the story. I mean, seriously, I know I can understand it just fine, but there is a lot cut out and missing, and it's really just cool transitions, and you get to do some battles from the movie. So that's pretty cool. The first mission has you play as the special character who can only be played in 2 missions, Isildur, who is at the very beginning and then at the very end of the game. The end of the game doesn't matter, it's not story-wise, it doesn't make sense, it's just a fun special mission. But this one teaches you how some of the attacks work and parry works, and you also get a good sense of how easy the enemies have it. They have it fucking easy, man, I'll tell you what. Yes, you can get good at this game and play well and fight enemies, but the enemies have such an easy, small kit, they could override a lot of your attacks, and you really need to play the reaction game. You want to react to what they do. It makes things easier for you because you can just swing wildly, but it really won't get you very far unless you're really mashing well. I really don't feel like that's gonna help. So yeah, the enemies are a little tough, and I remember it being tough when I was younger, but wow, it takes a little bit to kind of get used to how things work, and I'm glad that this tutorial actually teaches you a few things and lets you get kind of into the thick of it quickly, and at least it makes sense story-wise too. This works pretty well. At the end of each mission, you get ranked based on what your combo meter was at during the fights, so you can get fair, good, excellent, perfect, you get some mission experience, you also get a mission rating, and you get some experience that you can use to
upgrade your skills, but this guy, Isildur, does not have a skill tree because it's the intro to the game, so I just hit continue to move on to the next mission, which is another story mission that makes sense time-wise, just quickly getting you through the Fellowship of the Ring. You have to play as Aragorn, and you have to fight the ring wraiths, who are coming after Frodo, and Frodo's an idiot and putting the ring on and off. He's just fucking around. So you gotta stop them from stabbing them with their little blades. Aragorn luckily controls exactly like Isildur, and you'll find out later at the end, he is exactly like Isildur. Isildur just has more health and maybe more damage. There is one special thing about this mission. When you use your heavy attack, which is triangle, you swing the torch, which is important because to kill the ring wraiths or to get them out of the arena, you have to hit them with the torch. Just hitting with your sword doesn't really do anything. So you just kind of mash and triangle for a while until you save Frodo's life. Finally, we actually get to see the upgrade screen, and we have upgrades for level 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Level 1 is completed for you already, so okay. And level 2 is the one that you're going to work on first. Well, I get about 5,000 points, and I get enough to get Isildur's War Rush, which I choose because it can finish off an enemy in one little combo as long as it connects. But the caveat is they can't have a shield. If they have a shield, it will just bounce off their shield and they'll knock your ass out. But look on the left side of the screen. It looks like Aragorn has smelled a really bad fart, like Arwen came in the room and shat herself after Elf Taco Tuesday. During the next mission, we go through some mountains down into a swamp, fighting enemies along the way, until we finally get to the part in the movie, or the game, I guess, where we fight this big octopus kraken thing, and it's really not too bad. It's kind of a cool mechanic. It sticks its tentacles out and it swings them around. You've got to block the tentacles and make sure you don't get hit, because if you block them and run towards them and slash them, you cut them off and bring his head up. Then you shoot an arrow at his mouth, and then he goes back down. So it's a nice little pattern that you have to do. You just got to make sure that if you block one of them, if you get hit, you're not going to be able to get up in time to attack it. So you got to block every attack, then go in and chop one of its tentacles off. After the mission, I spend my points on the move Isildur's Swift Terror, which I use as my bread and butter for the next couple missions, because even though this move is supposed to be for an unshielded foe, the triangle part at the end does count as a fierce attack, which will break a shield. You know what? Let me just show you. Here's the next mission. In the story, you get trapped in the mines of Moria, which you're supposed to be traveling through by all of these goblins, and you fight them coming through a doorway. Here's a really good way to cheese it. XX Triangle. It's actual like special move that comes out with a name and everything. Like if this was an anime, Aragorn would yell out, Isildur Swift, bleh, and then attack, you know, but it's not an anime, so don't worry. But this move can be used to stop them from coming in the doorway almost entirely for a little bit, which is cool. But once you get over with that, you do have to fight an ogre, and you actually get some cool mechanics fighting this guy. I actually like this fight. They did a pretty good job on it. Before we move on, let me talk about the abilities you unlock. Isildur's Swift Terror is the first one that I start using, and there is a decent timing to the move. You really have to press the buttons kind of quickly and in a good rhythm, otherwise the move just won't come out. And this is really a way you have to find out yourself. You just gotta test it. You can do it, you can figure it out. It's like a weird timing, almost like a combo in Mortal Kombat or something. You just gotta press it at the right moments. And all the skills have kind of different ways to press them, so you'll just have to figure it out. Just timing. Our next mission begins with this lovely glitch, and listen to Aragorn and then listen to the music.
Frodo carries the fate of us all. Frodo carries the fate of us all. The fate of us all. Frodo carries 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 the fate of us all. We must defend it. 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 We must defend it.
Aragorn has lost his fucking mind. Anyway, you're moving through this forest and you're trying to kill a certain number of Uruk-hai before Frodo loses this blue health bar, which, I mean, in the movie, he's not getting attacked by anyone, he's just escaping. So I assume this is just how close they are to him rather than his actual health bar. But, I mean, you know, no one's touching this stank little dude. This level has a nice mix of ranged and melee combat through lots of different little outdoor areas until you finally get to a boss. This is the guy who's shooting Boromir with arrows right in the friggin' face. So you fight this guy and it's not that difficult once you figure out what you have to do, but at first I didn't know what I was supposed to do to damage him. It's just block an attack of his and then kick him with circle, and when you kick him, you have a chance to use your fierce attack or your light attack, and you get to hit him a couple times, deal some damage. Just block, kick, attack, and you'll get him down. After this mission, I pick up 3 more skills: Isildur's Gambit, Charge Attack, and Goblin Bane, all of which are on level 4, so yay, I gotta level up. But I don't really use very many of these things. In fact, Goblin Bane is something I should have been using. I'm just gonna go ahead and use my hindsight. I should have been using it. It's very good, but I won't talk about it until later because it'll be organic. This is when I figured it out, way later, at the end of the game, which is so cool. The next mission has us going through another forest and really just fighting through enemies. There are a few ogres introduced, and at the end you fight 2 at the same time, but to be honest with you, pressing L2 makes your character jump backwards. If you do 2 fierce attacks and then jump backwards, you'll evade his attack, which you can't block. It'll just knock your ass out. But if you dodge back and then attack again, dodge, attack, it's really simple. Yeah, you have 2 at the end, but yeah, they kind of hit each other and they meld into one another and they'll just swing at the same time. So you can just keep a fierce attacking and jumping back. Our next mission takes us through a village that's being ransacked by some Urukai, and that villagers have a health bar at the top right, and it goes down as they actually get killed. So the faster you move, the faster you kill, the safer they are. As you can see, they are not always safe when I'm playing because, you know, I don't care for their lives that much. No, really, it's actually kind of difficult. You have to move fast, and you have to kind of maybe learn the layout and where enemies are, because there are a few parts where you have to do an objective like break some wood, you have to hit a barrel for some fire to get it out of the way, and you just need to make sure that if you see any villagers, don't let them die, because sometimes they'll die. As for upgrades at the end of the mission, I just picked the extra health one because, I mean, that seems like the best idea. Our next mission is not really from the movie, it's more like inferred what characters would have done in this situation, because the Urukai and goblins and orcs are moving explosives around these areas, and they find that you can shoot them with your arrows and blow them up, so they want you to do that. But there's no movie scene transition in this one, and it's just, like, this did not happen in the movie. Aragorn didn't go around shooting explosive barrels with a bow and arrow, or any of the characters, honestly. And that's all you really do. You walk around and shoot explosives. You can kill kind of groups of enemies that way. So you'll probably die a few times and realize, oh, I can kill these guys with this group of explosive barrels right here. So I'll just wait until they get closer, and eventually you get to the end. And at the end of the mission for the upgrade screen, you can see that I actually get to level 6, and I try to purchase an ability that I wish, again, I had been using this whole time, called Orc's Bane. We now have Goblin and Orc. Again, I'm not going to explain them until I actually use them, but I wish I had been using them. Our next mission is pretty short, but it has us getting separated from the other characters and fighting guys on wargs, who are a little bit tougher. They can knock you down pretty easy. You can usually just dodge or shoot them with arrows or kill them before they charge you. But then you get to a boss, and the boss is interesting. You actually have to wait for him to charge and go back to his starting position. Then his warg will rise up. You need to shoot the warg with an arrow, then run up and hit them. That's the only way you can damage them. Every so often he calls in an extra guy if you either A, run low on health, or B, run low on arrows. That guy will drop arrows or health depending on what you need. So this battle doesn't really feel too dangerous as long as you're willing to be able to kill an enemy on a warg. So it's really not that hard, and you just kind of keep getting arrows and health every time you make a mistake. But if he's charging at you, just turn sideways and jump backwards, and most likely he's not going to hit you. This guy wasn't really too hard. As for upgrades, I buy my most favorite ability until I realize there's other better ones. Isildur's Judgment. This is my new bread and butter for the entire rest of the game. And I say rest of the game, and what I mean to say is the next 3 missions, because there really aren't that many left. That's right, we're that far in the game already. The next 3 missions all take place in the same barricaded type castle area where people are taking refuge and these guys are trying to put ladders up on the walls, but you just fight in 3 different areas. So this first area is on the walls where they haven't yet breached. The ladders are coming up and everyone's coming up the ladders. You can kick the ladders down to prevent them from coming up, and you have to kill them because the bar at the top right of the screen, while it does show red circles for the ladders, the blue is how many people are on the wall. Once it gets too full, it begins to flash, and if you let it flash too long, the mission is just over. And this is actually pretty tough. I don't know how I passed it when I was younger. Honestly, I don't. I mean, I know I wasn't that young, but dude, this is freaking hard. You have to go hardcore, and luckily I got that Isildur's Judgment because it's a really helpful skill. It's strong and can almost always get your combo meter to perfect. And now that I'm actually getting perfects more often, I think when you have your meter flashing and your character flashing, doing perfects, you do more damage, or you can attack through enemies easier or something, but it's really good. So using that almost always, if you get a kill, gets you to perfect. So that's what really saves me here, is just slamming on multiple enemies and kicking as many ladders down as I possibly can. The next mission, like I said, takes place here, but just down in a courtyard. Enemies are trying to blow up this gate, or at least break it, because they actually attack it sometimes. But they are sending guys who are pretty much just suiciders. They come in with these big blow-up barrels on their back, and they try and run into the door and blow it up. You can shoot them with arrows, one shot kills them, and will actually blow up enemies around them, so you want them to be close to each other, or at least other enemies who don't have explosive barrels, because it will make it easier to deal with. But this is really just a test of endurance, man. You really need to make sure you keep stock of your arrows up, and you choose your targets wisely. Always go for the exploding barrel guys first, because not only do they do the most damage to the door, but they'll knock you down in the middle of everything. Yeah, they can hurt their friends, so it's helpful to shoot them near them, but don't let them get too close to the door. I mean, and then it doesn't matter. It will just hit the door. And eventually we get to the end where they bring in a whole friggin' catapult. They're like, screw this. We're not doing well enough. We need to move forward. They pull out the catapult, and there's just a line of guys in front of it. But luckily, they aren't that bad as if you just stick to one side. Only some of them get aggroed, and you can just go back and break the catapult to end the mission. Well, for some reason, they still break through the doors. Even though you've stopped them, they still break through. And now you're guarding the last gate. And this is just this is the last mission. This is an all-out brawl against every single enemy. They just keep coming at you. Yeah, you have allies around to like help you fight, at least take their attention, but you start out by just killing. You just kill and kill and kill until Legolas needs help. Then you run back to Legolas and you help him because he's being surrounded and just destroyed. And after you help him, you run back, you start fighting again at the gate to protect it. Then someone just yells, I think Gimli says, archers on the wall. Well, at first I didn't realize they actually want you to go fight the archers, so I didn't do it, and I just spent a bunch of time fighting, and then the door gets broken. 10 minutes of fighting. I should have probably realized something was wrong. And so I go back and when I hear him say that, I shoot the archers on the wall, and it lets me continue going back down to fight, and then it actually continues the mission after that, which is what did not happen last time. You fight the strongest ogre yet, who still is a pushover by using the jump back feature and then attacking him. And that's it. The game is over. It ends as the actual movie The Two Towers ends, and it says, in 2003, Return of the King, so that was interesting. That was really freaking short. To be fair, I didn't really technically get to level 10 until I beat the last mission, so I could have gone back to the other missions, redone them, got more experience, and gotten to level 10 for that last one, but it's not a big deal. So I'm thinking, is that it? Do I do anything else? Because that was pretty quick. Well, I decide, no. I'm going to do the special mission for Aragorn, and then the special mission with the special character. And then there's also one more thing on the map that's a little ring. I'll tell you more about the things on the map at the end here because I don't think it really mattered until now. But the special mission for Aragorn is like I said before, a tower with 20 waves of enemies. These enemies all vary in different types and different amounts. Archers, you've got ogres, you've got different goblins and orcs and urukai, and you kind of just have to deal with them. In between each round, you do get healed a decent portion of your health so that as you lose health, you can gain it back. Especially if you do well in a round, you'll gain more of your health back and have maybe full health. Well, I start out the tower waves by just learning, like, what am I supposed to do? Where do I go? It's not too bad. There's lots of enemies, and you can kind of learn how to take them down quickly. I'm using triangle, triangle, circle, triangle, which does his judgment attack, and it's very strong, but I just keep getting my ass kicked, and it's kind of difficult. And while I do make it to round 18, it's just kind of a tough time to get there, and I keep dying because, I don't know how this works. Eventually, I realize I remember using finishing moves when I was younger playing this game. And I realized that it's the Orc, Goblin, and Urukai Bane. Those Banes are finishing moves. When you perform the finishing move, you take no damage, but you instantly kill whoever it is that you're using it on. By the end of the game, level 10, you have enough points to get all 3 Banes, and that's all of the enemies in the game, save for the archers, who I don't believe you can use them on, or the ogre. But any of the enemies that are actually tough, the ones that can kill you super easy, the urukai, goblins, and orcs, those guys can really mash you up. But you can use this ability and take no damage and instantly kill them, regardless of if they have a shield. It's pretty much just square, 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 square when they hit your sword for a parry. The second that noise and spark is made, you hit X, R2. This will perform the finisher. It is hard to do, honestly, to do over and over, and to time it. How the hell do you time it when you're getting hit by an arrow and 2 people at once? You just hope. So you just do it over and over. Square, square, square. When you feel comfortable, X, R2. As long as they hit your sword, you get a connection and it makes a noise and shows a spark. It will go off as long as you do it correctly. There is a slight timing. I do it fast. I do it slightly slow. I don't know what to say. But these are the best moves in the game. I mean, you take no damage and you can just continuously parry until someone hits you. Then you do the move. So you can get by whole rounds taking 0 damage damage because you just stand still and parry like a maniac. But that's alright, it works really well. And once I find that out, bam, right to the end. Which, hey, this is really cool. The tower was a good test of, and like really good test of endurance and understanding of the game mechanics as they throw enemies at you. And even the last level is just 3 ogres. I mean, I know they just reused a bunch of stuff, but the 3 ogres are tough. You've really got to keep your space and let them hit each other, which will deal damage. It's almost like infighting in Doom, but they hurt each other, so you can kind of use that to your advantage. Once you do it, you unlock the special mission as the special character, and that is Isildur from the beginning of the game going through the tower that Aragorn just did. And surprise, surprise, Isildur is a carbon copy of Aragorn, except with more health and slightly more damage, but it doesn't matter because I just use a finisher on every single enemy, and I get to the end in one go because now I know how to do it. And it's really simple. Once you learn that finisher is good, that's it. It's the end of the game. Now, when I do beat Isildur's special mission, his super special mission, it does show credits, which makes me feel a little better because I thought, I don't really want to end too early. Well, luckily, I didn't have to. Here is the actual credits to the game. So yes, I beat the game. This is game number 4 for the channel, and now let's go to the review. What a short game and a short video comparatively to the other ones. So, well, that's okay. That's good for me. That makes it easier for me. And let's make this short and sweet too. I like the game. It's a fun game. It's very short, and it's much more for people who like Lord of the Rings or already know something about it. If you don't know anything about it, it's not going to be that interesting. The gameplay is fun. You mash some buttons, you do some combos, you do some finishers, you fight some enemies in different situations. It does get a little samey though, because with the 3 characters, they all do slightly different things. But eventually you'll end up finding some good ways to just cheese your way through the missions, or at least doing variations on things. It does help with a few different moves, but it's nothing too big and grand. It's a nice tight experience tied up with Lord of the Rings. And if you like brawlers or slight action RPGs, this game will be fun for about 5 to 10 hours, depending on what you want to do. Anyone can casually 100% this game, I think, even on hard. Once you learn the game, it's not too bad. I can understand how people want this game to be remastered. It was a fun experience. It was just fun. I really didn't get that upset with the game for any reason. The only time it was hard was going up the tower and the initial finding of the finishers being very powerful. The difference is that they are just a little too powerful. I mean, yeah, you can't use them on the ogres, but it did trivialize the tower once that happened, and I probably could have benefited from maybe slowing down and just figuring out how to fight groups of enemies. It was kind of its own challenge in its own right, way different from the regular game. So I think it's fun, but if they're going to remaster this game, which I believe they should, they need to pair it up with the Return of the King so that there's more content, because I would not purchase a just remastered version of this game for $30 to $60, maybe $10. It's just very short. There's not much to do. I'd like to have, at least 20 hours of things to do for a game that I purchased at almost a normal price. So if they put this together with Return of the King, which is longer and has more characters, more stuff, that'd be perfect. I think that would be a great way to get people to play these games, and they're really fun. And don't worry, we'll get to Return of the King later. Not the next video, sadly. It'll be a different game. But all in all, what a fun game. I really do hope one day it gets remastered, and I hope that you enjoyed the video. Alright, it's the guessing game. What game is the Mid-Journey AI's depiction of? Come on, you can get it. Now, there is a problem with the colors of the eyes. They're supposed to be orangish, reddish, and I think if you kind of imagine it being red, it might help a little more. But I think it's pretty obvious, especially if you've played the game. I say that, but I know what it is. I gotta stop saying that. Also, as a side note, it is getting really close to baby time, so just understand that it may be any day now, and I may be a couple weeks out before I even get to the next things, so just bear with me. I will still get a chance, don't worry, it will happen. I just don't want to rush anything. I will still make content, and hey, maybe it's 2 more weeks before the baby comes. I can easily make another video. Come on, Alright guys, thank you so much for watching and even being this far. I really appreciate it. I've just been astounded at how many people have been interested. I really appreciate it. And as a side note, I see how many games people are recommending. I play these on the console with the disc. I have to own it to play it. I don't do emulators for this challenge. The whole thing is I'm playing them on the system with the disc. So I'm trying my best to get as many games as I can. I didn't necessarily mean to own every PS2 game, but if I'm going to be playing them, I have to own them. So that's it. I'm not trying to borrow them or anything. I'm trying to own them because I don't know. That's just a weird part of the challenge that I don't bring up. So that's there. I'm buying them. So I have a lot of games already here. I will eventually get to those games, and they may be sooner than later because sometimes I go to the local game store and find things for pretty cheap. I mean, a lot of these games I bought, all save one, were pretty much like $5 or $6 at most. So I'm rambling, and if you're still watching, there's a bunch of random information for you. All right, bye.